Hey everybody, and welcome along to Razor Rocks. So this is a scenario I've been putting off for a while now, mainly because I saw it becoming a really long-term project, which I didn't really feel like taking on at the time, especially after Arid Heights, which was almost a year in the making, and with a similar size map and an unlimited, well, there's no time restriction with this one. I was worried it would turn into a mammoth project again, so. But the last couple of months, I had an idea to maybe make this a collaborative project, and who better to join forces with for a coaster building challenge than Brian Andrelczyk. So yeah, the concept will be pretty basic. The objective with the Razor Rocks is we've got to build 10 different coaster types with an excitement rating of at least 6 each, and basically what we're going to do is a bit of a back and forth or tag situation where one of us builds a coaster and maybe another ride or two, then passes it back to the other person. So yeah, thought it would be something a bit different, also reduce the burden on my quite limited capacity these days. And I think what we'll also end up doing here is kind of giving each other sort of a concept or a coaster layout idea to go with their build, which should hopefully make things a little bit interesting. Anyway, with that, let's get stuck into the first part of the build here. So we started off by building a bit of a placeholder railway station. The intent is that there will be a railway kind of going around the perimeter of the park, probably with 4 stations, one on each edge of the map, again similar to Arid Heights. So got that started, built a little tunnel underneath that train station. I didn't want to keep the train on the ground level, just because would have had to dig 2 height units down or have a bridge kind of going over the top, which I didn't think looked... I typically don't do that sort of thing, so I usually go one down on the path and have the railway tracks one height unit up as kind of a compromise, which I think fits in a little nicer. With OpenRCT2, of course, you can have railway tracks across the pathing, which is a lot more sensible and would be ideal for this sort of park, but it's all good. I think it'll turn out okay. So yeah, just set that little bit of railway up, got a bit of the pathing network set up, put in a crooked house just to get at least one open ride in the park and get some guests coming in. Crooked House isn't like a super good money maker or anything, but it is a nice cheap ride you can kind of start off a park with, I think. Then we got into the first coaster of the park, which was a side friction coaster. You'll probably recognize it pretty well. It's a somewhat lazy copy of Leap the Dips. So just a really gradual descent overall with a few really shallow drops and climbs along the way. I think we're not meeting the minimum drop height requirement for this coaster actually, so we're receiving a stat penalty, so actually we don't actually get the credit towards the scenario objective with this coaster, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about that. I still think it's a reasonable first coaster to get the park up and running. I think the stats are around high 2s to 3s across the board for excitement and intensity, so that's not too bad, and I think we could still charge almost $9 for a ticket, so that's really not too bad at all. Oh yeah, I called it Leap the Rocks because I wanted to, since it's such a close copy of Leap the Dips, I thought that was a no-brainer given the scenario that we're in. After that, did a little bit of decorating around the park entrance. Got stuck into some more pathing network, just adding in lots of shrubs around the place, a few of the trees just to kind of bound off the entrance area. Spent a lot of money on terraforming actually. I put in quite a few kind of rocks in amongst the side friction coaster as well as around the park entrance, and I probably should have not done that at this stage, just given how little money we were bringing into the park at this point, but it's all good. I mean, sometimes it's nice to just be able to do a little bit of decorating here and there, just so you can at least see some progress in the park. put in a bit of a midway up until the first. I think that central rock is the biggest in the park, so I just wanted to get a nice long midway kind of leading up to it, and then put in an observation tower at the end of that path. I thought it would be a sensible place as it's kind of nice and central, and should offer guests a pretty good view of the surroundings once they're up there. So yeah, just wanted to make it higher than the highest rock, which I think it achieves, and yeah, it's relatively central. So yeah, I think it's a pretty decent spot for it. So yeah, even though I didn't get the excitement rating of 6 required on the side friction coaster due to that stat penalty, I kind of want to give Brian the opportunity to do the next coaster, just because we're kind of short on cash already because I spent so much on landscaping. So instead, I decided to work on a splash boat ride, kind of off on the, way off on the other side of the park, out in sort of there's nothing out here at this stage. There's not much rock either. There's a couple close by, but it's pretty sparse out here. So yeah, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to put a splash boat ride down there. They're generally really good money makers, as the boats are quite high capacity, which is a good thing because yeah, as I said, I spent most of the loan already. It turned out to be a bit more of an expensive endeavor than I thought. Rather than just putting the lift hill straight after the station, I wanted to have a little nice meandering section just before that, and then the big drop afterwards. So yeah, I think the stats turned out pretty well, and again, I think we can charge upwards of $12 as long as we keep the guests coming to that ride. We should make a good amount of money for that. And yeah, so getting the pathing network all just connected up to that splash boats. Given that there's no pathing in the park to start with, it's actually deceptively expensive to add in all of this, especially because I got some elevated sections as well. It's not all just pathing on the ground, so I think that took up a lot more money than I was expecting. But it's all good. It's important to get all this stuff in. But yeah, I think with that splash boats ride, I'm probably going to reserve a bit of this area for other water rides as well. I think it might make sense to have a little kind of water area of the park. Given that it's in the desert, it probably makes sense to kind of concentrate those sort of rides in one area. Yeah, then added in a couple swinging inverter ships, which is kind of typical of my builds. I just think they look really good right next to each other, and I really did need to bring in some new guests. Also get some rides with higher intensity ratings, because I think the highest intensity rating was for the splash boats, around 2.5, I think. So yeah, really needed to get something a little bit higher. If I remember correctly, the swinging inverter ships are around 3.5 to 4 on the intensity range. So yeah, most guests will ride them. So yeah, I think they ended up doing their job pretty well. Just kind of jammed it in between those two rocks in that kind of awkward space on the side. Added some more track to the railway, just again as a placeholder. I think with the railway and transport rides for in general, it's good to kind of lay that out as soon as you can. So even though we were short on cash, I thought it was pretty important to kind of get the track at least up and going in this area, just so we could start building the pathing around it without having to make drastic adjustments to it later on. Yeah, well, once I do this, that's pretty much it. I just do some light decorating. I'm trying to build in a few little like plazas around the place, and that's definitely coming from some inspiration from Brian. That's something that he does really well, just to incorporate little plazas and squares throughout the pathing network, just like I did around the splash boats area here as well. I'll probably end up putting some like statues or fountains there, and yeah, I think they always look really good, and I think you do notice them in real life amusement parks quite a bit. So yeah, then we go back to the main midway and spend a little bit of time kind of reconfiguring that. I wasn't liking the two little loops that I created. I thought maybe that might end up being a bit tricky for guest pathfinding, so went with like two main sort of central strips and changed the pathing type as well, just for something a little bit different. Added some nice tall trees as well, just because I thought that generally looks quite nice when you got a nice row of trees along the midway. But yeah, anyway, so that's all I have time for today. I'll keep you posted on what Brian ends up doing with his part of the build once I hand the park over to him. So yeah, the coaster layout that I've kind of asked for from Brian is a Zero Tivoli model, one of those kind of meandering layouts. So yeah, it's up to him kind of where he ends up putting it, but yeah, I think that's the main ask, and I think it'll end up being a nice addition to the park. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how this park develops, and yeah, it's going to be really good fun getting Brian's design work in this build. Anyway, yeah, thanks all very much for watching, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in the next one. Cheers, bye. Also, before I sign off, just wanted to say thank you all very much for your support throughout 2024. Hope you had a happy holiday season. I'd really like to be able to say that I plan on making heaps of new videos over the next year, but unfortunately my calendar is kind of pretty well packed for the next few months. But I'll try my best to keep up a somewhat steady video output. But yeah, thank you all very much for your support throughout 2024, and yeah, looking forward to 2025. We'll see you later. Bye.